auspicious appearance day of Lord Nrsimhadeva, who appeared millions of years ago on the Satyuga. Actually, Lord Nrsimhadeva appears in different places in different yugas. In the previous yuga, he appeared in South India, and in this last yuga, he appeared in the heavenly planets, in the kingdom of Indra, which he'd taken over Indra's kingdom, kicked him out of his palace, and Lord Hiranyakashipu actually took control of that kingdom of Indra, and that's where Nrsimhadeva appeared. So he's the half man, half lion incarnation of the Lord. His pastimes are just wonderful, inconceivable, and amazing. And he is our dearest well-wisher, protector, and it is said that actually he's easily pleased by our simple devotion. So although we read the story, we're going to tell the story from the Bhagavatam, even though he's fear personified for these demoniac people who try and tyrannize the world and cause so much harm and destruction and suffering for humanity. But he's also has a very peaceful side. He's very kind, he's very gentle, very loving, very compassionate, very, very dear to his devotees. And actually, every morning we pray. After we do our kirtan, we do this special prayer to Nrsimhadeva. And that prayer, we're praying to Lord Nrsimhadeva, our protector. My dear Lord, please protect me from all worldly dangers that threaten my auspicious life. Because as Prabhupada mentions, in this material world there's danger at every step. And people just, anything can happen. Even just driving on the street, you can have a horrible... So I have one devotee, he just was driving and someone fell asleep and they drove their car head-on collision and the devotee died. Just happened within a second. A day. Material world. So we pray to Nrsimhadeva, please protect us from all worldly dangers. And also, because you're situated in our hearts, please destroy all my bad propensities. Because the nature of us conditioned souls, because we've been living in this world for thousands of lifetimes, we don't know how many lifetimes. Therefore, due to the influence of this material energy, we may have developed, we have a certain contamination or a certain covering on our original pure spiritual consciousness. And therefore, we may at times, just trying to be yourself, it's not as easy as it sounds, because of being in this world for thousands of lifetimes, we've developed all these coverings. So sometimes we may even act in a way that's not even true to ourselves. So therefore, sometimes we may have developed qualities, we might be, such as lust and envy and anger and illusion, duplicity, desire for fame and insincerity, hypocritical. So even though we're trying to develop the good qualities, sometimes these things, they come up from the past. Therefore we pray to Nrsimhadeva, not just to protect us externally from all these worldly dangers, but to protect us internally. Please destroy all my bad propensities, whatever they are, whether it's lust or envy or anger or illusion, duplicity, maybe even insincerity, laziness. Please purify my heart and give me a strong desire to serve Krishna. So this famous story of Nrsimhadeva and Prahlad actually is considered by the Vaishnavacharyas, our whole disciplic line of spiritual masters, which goes back thousands and thousands and thousands of years, to be so especially relevant to every aspiring devotee's life. And Prabhupada himself would actually lecture for weeks and weeks on these teachings of Prahlad Maharaj. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu the Govardhana avatar who appeared 500 years ago, he was Krishna himself, he would always get Garuda Pandit to read the Srimad Bhagavatam to him. And whenever he got to this story about Nrsimha and Prahlad, he'd stop him and say, read it again. Read it again. And he'd read it over and over and over. But Lord Chaitanya just relished hearing the story so much that it was a long time before they actually went on to the next part of the Bhagavatam. So in order to bring us devotees to that level of, it's like, Lord Chaitanya had he's got a special mission in this Kali Yuga. He wants to elevate all people, despite their backgrounds, he wants to elevate all people to the highest platform of pure love and devotion for the Supreme. This is the highest perfectional stage of yoga, of religion, of all spiritual practices. It's come to this level of pure love for the Supreme. So in order to bring us to that level, he encouraged us to follow in the footsteps of this Prahlad Maharaj. I'm going to tell you about Prahlad Maharaj. But he was just a young boy, 5 years old, and just his innocent, sweet faith, his innocent, sweet devotion, his selfless service, his heartfelt, beautiful prayers to the Supreme Lord. If we just follow in his footsteps, we can attain the greatest treasure of the Lord's mercy, I promise. So, the Acharyas, Lord Chaitanya are telling us, that we should fall under the dust of Sri Prahlad's lotus feet and follow in his footsteps. And this will be very, very pleasing to Lord Nrsimhadeva. And of course, on these particular holy days, the Lord gives us special opportunity to access his special mercy. On these special days, the Lord is just pouring out his blessings. So, in our Vaishnava tradition, whether it's Krishna's birthday, or Radharani's birthday, or Nityananda, Chaitanya, Balaram, Nrsimhadeva, we come before those personalities and we just open our heart and we just pray for their mercy, that somehow or other we can overcome all our shortcomings, overcome our illusion and our attachment to this world, which is stopping us from developing this pure love for Radha and Krishna. And because they're so merciful on these particular days, they're just pouring out their blessings. So we should be there praying for these blessings. So Krishna tells us in the Bhagavad Gita why he comes to this. Why does he come to this earth planet? And he tells us in the Bhagavad Gita to deliver the pious, annihilate the miscreants, as well as re-establish the principles of religion. So during this time, there actually lived this very cruel and powerful demon named Hiranyakashipu. As Maharaj was saying this morning, this is a whole Leela created by Krishna. This demon was actually a devotee from the Vaikuntha planets. He got this curse, and then Krishna gave him and his brother, they both got cursed to take birth in the material realm. And so he gave him the choice. He said, okay, I can't, the Brahmins have given you this curse, and I'm happy with that. You've offended them. But you have a choice. You can take birth in this world as 7 times as demons, 7 times as devotees, or 3 times as demons, demoniac personalities. So they thought, immediately they said, yes, 3 times as demons, so we can come back to the spiritual world as soon as possible to be with you, my dear Lord. So they came down and they performed this Leela of being the enemies of the Lord. So he was fixing his determination, to kill Lord Vishnu, just previous to this, it was Lord came as Lord Varaha. the boar incarnation, he killed his brother, Hiranyaksha, who was the other demon. And he was so disturbed, he was so unhappy about that. And he took this vow he was going to kill Lord Vishnu and cause great disturbance on the earth for all the demigods, and in the heavenly planets to all the demigods, because Lord Vishnu had favoured them and sided with them in killing his brother, his dear brother. So he had this desire. He wanted to conquer the universe, become the absolute ruler of one and all. And to achieve this goal, he wanted to become invincible. So he performed these very severe austerities. Sometimes if you go to India, actually, you'll see these yogis, up in the Himalayas especially, and they do these incredible austerities. You know, sometimes you see them, they just stand on one leg for like, 50 years or something, or they bury themselves in the sand. You ever seen that? And just see the head there, they're buried in the sand, and they perform all these austerities because they want mystic powers, they want control. And so this Hiranyakashipu, he wanted to be invincible. So he performed these incredible austerities for 100 celestial years. And he stood on his toes with his arms upraised, he's looking towards the sky. For celestial years are much longer than earth years. But he stood there for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. And it is said, actually, that his entire body, he was just standing still there, and his entire body got covered with an anthill. And the ants had actually eaten away all his skin, flesh and blood. So basically he was just a skeleton there, but by his mystic power he kept the life air circulating within his bones. And his austerities were so severe that there was a fire emanating from the top of his head that was scorching the higher planetary systems, and all the demigods in the higher planets started complaining to Lord Brahma. So Lord Brahma came to find out, everything's heating up here in the heaven. So finally Lord Brahma came and he mercifully sprinkled some transcendental water on that anthill. And what happened is suddenly Hiranyakashipu, he just burst out of this anthill with this beautiful, new, powerful body. These demigods like Lord Brahma have these mystic powers. So they can do incredible things. Even bring people back to life. So immediately, he burst out of the anthill, he's got this new powerful body by the mercy of Lord Brahma, and he immediately offered his obeisances. And he immediately asked Lord Brahma, I want to become immortal. But Brahma told him that this request was just impossible to achieve, because even Lord Brahma himself was not immortal. So how could he give him this benediction? So Hiranyakashipu, being very intelligent, he thought, okay, I can't be immortal, but he'll ask for things which almost make him immortal. So he asked that he could not be killed by any living entity created by Lord Brahma. He could not die outside a residence or inside a residence, in the day or night, in the ground, in the sky. He wanted sole lordship over all living entities, and he wanted all mystic powers. So Lord Brahma told him, although these benedictions are rarely achieved, Lord Brahma agreed and awarded these benedictions to him. And soon he took over the residence of Lord Indra. He was the king of the heavenly planets, took over his palace, and from there he severely ruled the whole universe. And he caused a lot of suffering. And I'm going to read this. Some people may think that he wasn't that bad, but when you hear him, he says here, he said, "Oh my Lord," this is Hiranyakashipu speaking, "Oh my Lord, all the demigods headed by Lord Brahma are sincere servants." What is it? Okay. Oh, yeah. He told all his he's talking to his demoniac friends, he said, immediately go wherever there is good protection for the cows and Brahmins, wherever the Vedas are studied in terms of the Varnashram principles, set fire to all those places and cut from the roots the trees where there are the source of life. Thus the demons, being fond of disastrous activities, took Hiranyakashipu's instructions to their heads with great respect and offered him obeisances. According to his directions, they engaged in envious activities directed against all living beings. They set fire to the cities, because the cities in the heavenly planets, this is where all the devotees live. Sometimes people think that as Hare Krishnas we're just an insignificant amount of people on the earth. But when you take in consideration the whole creation, the heavenly planets, the spiritual world, actually most of the people living on this in this whole creation of the Lord, spiritual and material worlds, actually they're all Hare Krishna devotees. And so the people that are not devotees, they're actually a very insignificant amount, actually, and to take into consideration. So all these devotees living in the heavenly planets, they're living there, and suddenly these demons are setting fire to the cities, the villages, the pasturing grounds, the cow pens, the gardens, the agricultural fields, and the natural forests. They burnt the hermitages of saintly persons, the important mines that produce valuable metals, the residential quarters of agriculturalists, the mountain villages and the villages of the cow protectors and the cowherd men. They also burnt the government capitals. Some of the demons took digging instruments and broke down the bridges, protective walls and gates of the city. Some took axes and began cutting important trees that produce food, such as mango, jackfruit and other sources of food. Some of them took firebrands and set fire to the residential quarters of the citizens. So this was just complete disaster and havoc, and everyone just, even the demigods, they all fled, they all went, so many of them actually came down to earth to hide, and people were just suffering and being tormented, and there's just so much suffering going on. So this is one reason why the Lord came, to protect his devotees, to re-establish this Vaishnava culture and get rid of this demoniac element. So Hiranyakashipu had 4 very wonderful sons, but out of these 4 there was one really special son, which is Sri Prahlad. So he was a reservoir of all transcendental qualities. Although he was born in the family of Asuras, he was a great devotee of the Lord, always absorbed in the ecstasy of loving devotional service. And as mentioned today, about how he was born in this family of demoniac family, how was it that he was a great devotee? And it tells you here in the Bhagavatam that once upon a time, while Hiranyakashipu was performing these austerities, what happened is the demigods headed by Indra attacked the demons and defeated them. And at that time, Lord Indra arrested Hiranyakashipu's wife, who was pregnant at the time, thinking there was a great demon in her womb. But then Narada Muni came. He arrived on the scene and explained that in her womb was actually a great devotee for that. So Narada Muni took her, Prahlad's mother, Hiranyakashipu's wife, to his hermitage, and he began to instruct her in transcendental knowledge. And as devotees, we know that when the baby's in the womb, they can hear. They can hear the chanting, they can hear the knowledge, they can hear all these things. So he was hearing all this knowledge in the womb. He was getting it's like he's sitting in a class, but he's sitting in the womb, just getting all the knowledge. And he became completely self-realized. He became a great devotee of the Lord by the mercy of his spiritual master, Narada Muni. So sometimes after, when he was born, he was growing up, he's just a young boy. And Hiranyakashipu was very fond of this Prahlad. And one day he took Prahlad on his lap and he affectionately inquired, "My dear Prahlad, what have you learned in your school today?" It's like fathers, they do to the children like that, But Prahlad, he fearlessly began answering in a way that completely surprised his father. Because you've got to understand, just like we send our kids to the Gurukul, so they get the spiritual education, they get the material education. But in this demoniac society, they send the kids to school to teach them how to become really demoniac. So he's thinking how to divide your enemies and how to suppress people, how to exploit people. All these things that people with that type of nature do. So he's expecting Prahlad to tell him all these things, the demoniac things he'd learned in school. But Prahlad, he began to answering it in a way that completely surprised. He began to explain the futility of material existence and demoniac life, and the need for all living entities to take shelter of the Supreme, become devotees of the Lord. So, when Hiranyakashipu heard that, he just began laughing loudly. This is just, how ridiculous is this? And then he called out, this boy's intelligence has been spoiled by the words of the enemy. Teachers, take this boy away and protect him from bad influences. Because he was thinking, somehow or other, some Hare Krishna devotees have snuck in there and were teaching him some things about Krishna consciousness, about devotional activities. Because Prahlad was severely chastised by his teachers, they were fearing for their lives. This Hiranyakashipu might just kill us. So then after some time had passed, when Prahlad was 5 years old, once again, Hiranyakashipu took his beloved son Prahlad on his lap. He said, "My dear Prahlad, what's the best knowledge you have learnt in your school?" Once again, Prahlad began speaking about the glories of loving devotional service to the Supreme. And suddenly his father he just became overwhelmed with anger. His lips began to tremble with anger. He began shouting at Prahlad in a very fearful voice. "Where have you received this knowledge?" And then Prahlad fearlessly began preaching to his angry father about the pitfalls of demoniac life and the glories of living the pure spiritual and godly life. So hearing this, his father just became blinded with anger. And it said he just picked up his young son and just threw him on the ground and instructed his demoniac followers to kill this boy as soon as possible. So the story goes, they tried to kill him in so many ways, but they couldn't kill him. Krishna protected him. You read about these horrible ways they tried to kill him. They tried to pierce him with these razor-sharp tridents. They tried to throw him beneath the feet of stampeding elephants, throw him in a pit of poisonous snakes, hurl him from the tops of mountains. They tried to give him this poison, roll heavy rocks on him, starve him to death, cast spells on him, expose him to severe heat and cold. So while this was all going on, he was just remembering the Lord. He was just meditating on his protector, the Supreme Lord, just chanting the holy name and just praying for his protection. And Krishna reciprocated with him. He completely protected him. Nothing they could do could harm him. So, in this way, it's kind of instructive. The acharyas say this, to follow in the footsteps of Prahlad. for us devotees means that even when we're faced with the greatest opposition in life, the greatest difficulties, we just immediately, we should just take shelter of Krishna, take shelter of the Supreme, and become absorbed in this process of devotional service. And there can be any one of them, a million different ways in which difficulties may come. It may be our health, it may be the heat or the cold, it may be we may have enemies, or maybe even our relatives. Sometimes it happens, when us devotees when we decide to take up the spiritual path, the parents, they really start, they start complaining, you're wasting your life, you should get back to university. And they do so many ways, and they try in so many ways. It may be our own desires or anatas in our heart. Obstacles have come into our life, within and without. Maybe just the people around us. But in all circumstances, we have to be fearless like Prahlad. We have to have full faith like Prahlad. We have to be absolutely obedient to our Guru like Prahlad. We have to welcome these difficulties and take shelter of Krishna, become absorbed in the process of devotional service, chanting and praying and remembering Krishna, searching with devotees, reading and hearing talks about Krishna, becoming conscious of the need for Krishna's protection and support and mercy, which is beyond ourselves. So we have to welcome, like Prahlad, we have to welcome all difficulties that come into our life with a happy heart, like Prahlad. And then the Supreme will appear in this world, in our heart, like Prahlad, and give us that strength to overcome any obstacles. And we see that as devotees. Sometimes things come into our life, huge obstacles, which we think they might be insurmountable. I'm never going to be able to overcome this problem. But we just keep practicing Krishna consciousness, just keep chanting. Then in a very short time, we realize that problem was just passes by, like something was totally insignificant. So we have to follow in the footsteps of Sri Prahlad, and then the Nrsimhadeva will be very pleased. So generally when the need's there, when difficulties come into people's lives, they do take shelter, but they don't take shelter of the Supreme. They take shelter of their own minds, or their own intelligence, or they take shelter of, some people just dive into intoxication, or sense gratification, or they take shelter of the fallible soldiers of other people that can't really help them. And therefore, people, they suffer greatly actually. They get no real shelter in this world. So when Hiranyakashipu realized that his son Prahlad could not be killed due to his connection with Lord Vishnu, for a moment he became very fearful. Meanwhile, Prahlad's teachers convinced Hiranyakashipu that, we can reform Prahlad. We'll bring him back to school, we'll reform him. So Prahlad went back to school. What happened when he went back to school? He started teaching all his school friends, his classmates, about the glories of devotional service, about bhakti yoga, about the ultimate purpose of the human form of life, which is to develop love for Krishna. He has also instructed them about the importance of taking shelter of a bona fide spiritual master or guru. And he got them all to chant Hare Krishna. All these sons of the demons who were being sent to school to be trained up to become very demoniac and envious and horrible and violent. He made them all into devotees. Unfortunately, when his father found out that all the sons of the demons were becoming devotees of the Lord, due to the influence of Prahlad's influence, it is said that his whole body became to trembling with anger. Actually, it started to say that he began hissing like a trampled snake. They would stand on a snake, like a cobra or something, around. They become very angry and they start hissing like that. He became very angry. And he started shouting at his little son, Prahlad. He was only 5 years old. He was speaking very strong words to him. Oh, most impudent, most unintelligent disrupter of the family. O lowest of mankind, you have violated my power to rule you. Therefore you are an obstinate fool. Today I shall kill you. By whose power has a rascal like you become so impudent that you appear fearlessly and overstep my power to rule you? And Prahlad, Hiranyakashipu, he was so ferocious that practically everyone in the whole universe just trembled in fear of him. And here he is, about to kill Prahlad, and Prahlad was completely fearless due to his attachment to the Lord. And it's said that actually most people in the world, they live in fear. There's always that fear there. Not just for protection, people fear because, they may not get their desires fulfilled in life. They may not find true love, true happiness. But when one takes shelter of the Supreme Lord Krishna, then all that fear just disappears. And you feel protected. You feel completely fearless. So Sri Prahlad, he was just fearlessly began telling his angry father that he should give up his demoniac ways and simply surrender to the Lord. So hearing this, his father became even more enraged. He became so angry. And he began shouting at Prahlad in this angry voice, "O most unfortunate Prahlad, you have always described a supreme being other than me, who is a supreme controller. Let me see your most worshipful Lord come to protect you as I cut off your head." Then he was so angry, this hideous demon who was so enraged, out of intense anger, he struck this pillar of the palace with his powerful fist. And suddenly, from within that pillar, there came this fearful sound, like a shriek that could be heard throughout the whole universe. And it said that even very powerful elephants, they began to cry when they heard that shriek. And then as that Hiranyakashipu, as he looked up, he saw this huge form of Nrsimhadeva emerge from the pillar with his angry eyes and his deadly sharp razor teeth and his sharp tongue and his many arms carrying all these different weapons. And immediately, in great anger and great force, he just attacked the Lord Nrsimhadeva with his sword and shield. But suddenly, Lord Nrsimhadeva, he made this loud shriek of laughter. He was just laughing like this. And with the speed of a hawk, he just captured that Hiranyakashipu. And it's because the story goes, he caught him, and he was kind of, his arms and legs were shaking around like, just kind of captured him. And then he kind of let him slip from his hand. And the Hiranyakashipu said, this lion, this huge creature is actually afraid of me. And he took a little rest for a few seconds, and then he attacked the Lord again in full force. Of course, then the Lord Nrsimhadeva grabbed him, picked him up, and he put him on his lap, and he killed him with his razor-sharp nails. And of course after that there was hundreds and thousands of this Hiranyakashipu's soldiers, like a whole entire army of very powerful soldiers just started attacking Nrsimhadeva from every direction. And Nrsimhadeva, using his sharp claws, he kind of put them, he killed them all. And of course then, it was a very terrible massacre. And of course, when this happened, everyone was very happy. And all the demigods were showering flowers like rain. The flowers were falling from the heavenly planets, were falling on Nrsimhadeva, and they were chanting beautiful songs and beautiful prayers. And all the demigods came to thank Lord Nrsimhadeva for saving us from all this suffering and this tyrannizing activities of the Hiranyakashipu, who's causing so much suffering in this universe. So they're all thanking the Lord. And of course Lord Nrsimhadeva, after this huge battle, he was pretty fired up. He was pretty angry. And in seeing him in that extremely angry mood, no one dared come near him, no one dared approach him. So Lord Brahma said, Prahlad, this little boy Prahlad, he's only a little 5-year-old boy, he said, Prahlad, you go forward and try and appease the angry Lord. So little Prahlad, he was just in a very humble way, he came forward, he fell down at the Lord's lotus feet, and he offered his obeisances. And when Lord Nrsimhadeva, even though he's in this fired up, angry mood, seeing his dear little devotee before him, he became so ecstatic, just overwhelmed with just affection and love towards him. His whole mood changed. And he lovingly, he put his hand on Prahlad's head. And when, by that touch of the Lord on his head, he just, all the love in Prahlad, his love for the Supreme, just started swelling up inside him. He started manifesting all these symptoms of ecstasy. His heart was just so filled with love. His eyes were just, tears were just flowing from his eyes. And he offered these beautiful, heartfelt prayers to Nrsimhadeva. Then Lord Nrsimhadeva gave the order that Sri Prahlad should rule his father's kingdom for many, many years and enjoy this royal opulence. Then he could return back to Goloka Vrindavan in the spiritual world. So we see in this wonderful pastime, we see the Lord in his form as Nrsimhadeva. He's very personally dealing with Sri Prahlad, his pure devotee. And he'll very personally deal with us also. His only desire is that we go back to our real home in the spiritual world, where we can live with him eternally. So his whole focus is just his deep, incredible, deep compassion for his devotees. And Nrsimhadeva is always trying to help us in our Krishna consciousness, in our spiritual journey. And it is said that Nrsimhadeva will provide with each and every one of us a very personal path that's especially designed for us according to our nature. He's situated within our hearts, and he'll guide us and direct us. And he's already designed a very special path for us according to our nature and our particular situation. So ultimately we get the purification we need to become spiritually perfect, become Krishna conscious, and ultimately, go back to Godhead. He has no other desire to bring us to the state of pure love of God. In this way, we always have to place our trust in him always. So Krishna is teaching us in this pastime that, all the obstacles that actually come into our life and difficulties on the path of Krishna consciousness, bhakti yoga, devotional service, are there to help us actually, to help us go places in our spiritual life where we never would have gone without those difficulties. And at times, Krishna he may make it a little difficult for us. But within that difficulty, we get so much purification, we gain so much spiritual strength. And also it is said that Krishna will never test us beyond our capacity that we can manage. We simply have to trust him at all times and realize that he's truly our best friend. He's our real well-wisher. And he'll always protect us from within and without. So we should always be eager for that protection and that spiritual upliftment. And we should also be eager to remove all our unwanted desires and attachments and things which are stopping us from making rapid spiritual advancement. But he'll only remove those things to the extent we're willing to take shelter of them. So we have to really learn this process of Krishna consciousness, which is given by Srila Prabhupada, so we can learn how to really take shelter of the Lord through this chanting His holy name, associating with the devotees, trying to do some service. Of course, especially in this angry mood, when his devotees was in anger, was in danger. We see in Nrsimhadeva, he's very fearsome, with his razor-sharp teeth, like thunderbolts, and he may appear very harsh. So it is said that this hardness on the outside shows the depth of how deeply he cares for his devotees and wants to protect them. So ultimately there's no reason to fear Nrsimhadeva. Even though he may exhibit this leela and pastime, we should have full faith that he's truly our best friend and well-wisher, and he'll always protect us from within and without, at all times. So we should be very eager for that protection, and eager for that spiritual upliftment, and very eager to remove all these unwanted desires and attachments that are stumbling blocks in the path of pure devotional service. But we all should always remember that he'll only remove these things to the extent we're willing to take shelter of him. So, to get that mercy of Lord Nrsimhadeva, he's very pleased. It is said that Nrsimhadeva is very pleased by our simple service, by our sincerity. And Srila Prabhupada mentions many times, we show our sincerity by, even though there's so difficulties there, we keep practicing our Krishna consciousness. Lord Nrsimhadeva Bhagavan Ki, Govardhana Hare